Okay, we'll start with our blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Moadim l'simcha, that is the greeting after the first days of Yantif. So this is called Chol HaMoed, which means the ordinary days of the festival. And as some people say, you have a choice of whether you have more ordinary or more festival. So the goal is to have more festival than ordinary. So people do different things. Mine is that I wear my grandmother's diamond ring that I wear for Simchas and for Yantif. So that's what I do. And some people make a habit to have wine every day, to do something that is festive for the holiday and to do something special to make sure that it doesn't slip into ordinariness. One of the great things about being in Israel is Chol HaMoed, after the Yantif is over, everybody is out. Everybody is out. They're traveling, they're in the restaurants, they're in the stores, they are out. So we were to have had 7 days of quarantine, but thanks to our daughter-in-law who submitted our paperwork, we were able to call the Ministry of Health today. Not everybody has this good fortune, but they said, yeah, you can be released. So they sent us an email releasing us. So now we are free agents. So it took a while, took a few minutes just for my head to recalibrate. Wait, no, we can go outside our apartment and we can do whatever we want. So where did we go? We went to the place with the most number of people, though we didn't stay. We did not come, we tried to stay away from all the people. So we went to the shuk, the Mahane Yehuda shuk, which is just filled with people, bought iced coffee, which is my idea of celebrating in Israel, is the iced frothy coffee and ragalach, and then sat and people watched for over an hour and just watching all the different kinds of Jewish people, Jews, Arabs, people of all colors, stripes, everybody out looking like they were having the greatest time ever. So since we don't have the Beit HaMikdash, we don't have the temple yet rebuilt, the next best thing is everybody going out and having a good time and mingling together. And that's what people were doing. So it was really quite festive and beautiful. And then many of the restaurants have sukkahs set up so that you can get something and eat outside. And we were very fortunate for our apartment rental as well. They had a company come and put up a sukkah for us that has lights and closes and opens so that for the weather that we can be out there for our meals and davening. So it's really nice singing Hallel in the sukkah on the street corner in the middle of the city and having that be like a really normal thing. So it's quite an experience. So it's really great. So I want to talk about Sukkot, since this is the holiday where we are called to be, as it's described in the Torah, that Sukkot is the time to be ach sameach, nothing but happy. That when we make Kiddush for both Sukkot and for Shemini Atzeret and for Simchas Torah, it'll say Zman Simchatenu, the time of our happiness. And that this is not the label that's given for Pesach, which is interesting. You'd think that the best time of happiness would be when we were released from the enslavement from Egypt. Like, what could be happier than that? It's freedom. But that's not called Zman Simchatenu. That is called Zman Chirutenu, the time of our freedom. And giving of the Torah, that should make us happy, since that was the whole point. But no, that's called Zman Matan Toratenu, the time of the giving of the Torah. And it's not until we get to Sukkot that it's called Zman Simchatenu, the time of our great Simcha. So we want to talk about what Simcha is and the paradox of Sukkot being the holiday of Simcha. So one of the things that we know about a sukkah is that it must have a temporary nature. It is called something that has the qualities called arai, which means temporary. That you cannot build yourself a house and then go out and live in it and say that's your sukkah. It has to be something that can collapse. It has to be fragile. It has to be temporary. It has to have the potential to kind of go away. So tonight here in Yerushalayim, it's supposed to rain. So we don't know what's going to happen with the rain and the wind. Hopefully it stays up, but it may not. Now, if this was our normal house, I'd be rather concerned. If I said, oh, I don't know if my house is going to stand up tonight or not, maybe it will, maybe it won't, I'd be like freaking out. But when it comes to the sukkah, that's the nature of it, is that it needs to have this fragile aspect to it. And yet the word sukkah means to protect. So that's kind of ironic, since the thing that we're saying that's protecting us is something that can't really protect us. It's kind of a mixed metaphor there. So that which is protecting us is the idea that it can't really protect us, which is all to take our attention to a different focus, which is what is really the source of our protection, which is that there's nothing in the physical world that can protect us. I think the last year and a half, 2 years have really taught us that there is nothing in the physical world that can protect us. Protection comes from God. And that reality is what really makes us basimcha, that makes us happy. So why does that make us happy? That should make us nervous. Like, are you kidding me? Like, that makes me feel even more anxious than I felt before. But that the definition of happiness, and a lot of this comes from a class that I listened to from the rabbi who's going to be the rabbi of our new community in Mitzpeh Yericho in Israel. So he sent a recording of a class that he gave to women. So I thought, well, how perfect for me to share it with women from Denver. So I wanted to share this with you. And he quotes somebody, and he didn't have the name of the person, but he said that authentic and sustainable happiness, let alone emotional health, comes when someone is connected to reality. Sometimes painful, difficult, whatever it is, but a person who is connected to reality is the person who can have authentic, sustainable happiness, as well as good mental health. That we think it's going to come to us, the happiness will come to us when we have no more problems. So that's not what's going to give you happiness. First of all, that time is never going to come. That there's always going to be a problem. If it's not one problem, it's another problem. It's not one thing, it's another. So you solve one thing and then something else happens. And the goal is actually not to try to have no problems. If that's your goal, first of all, good luck with that. And second of all, it's going to cause us to live in an artificial place, because then we'll have to be in denial. Because if I want to be happy, then I have to deny that I have any difficulties. Because if my definition of being happy is that I have no difficulties, then if I want to be happy, then I have to deny that I have any difficulties. Or that happiness then is always out of reach and seems to be magically present for somebody else in some magical world. And that's not true. So if we have a holiday where we are told that we are to be ach sameach, nothing but happy, then that has to be attainable. You can't have a mitzvah, a commandment to be nothing but happy, but then have that happiness be only for a few people, which isn't even possible. And who are those people? It says even King Solomon, that when he writes in Ecclesiastes, which we'll read on Sukkot, on Shabbat of Sukkot, he says he was the wealthiest, wisest person of all. He tried everything. He tasted everything. He could afford everything. The person who could be everything, do everything, have everything. And what's the source of happiness? Is accepting God runs the world, and I have the opportunity to live in reality and connect to God, connect to Torah, connect to the Jewish people. That is the source of happiness, to connect to the real life. So this sukkah that is about fragility is saying that's what life really is. You're chasing an unreachable goal. If you are looking for this place that is going to give you this ultimate security and happiness and safety, it does not exist. So it says we call a person who does that, it's like they're on a wild goose chase. That's what we call it, a wild goose chase. If you're looking for something that doesn't really exist. So, but can it be found? And the answer is yes. It can be found in accepting reality for what it is. This doesn't mean that we don't try to improve it, but it means accepting reality. So what is the reality that we're trying to accept? It says, after Rosh Hashanah and after Yom Kippur, we've gone through a whole process of renewing a sense of our life for the coming year. We're going through a process of asking forgiveness for our sins, and that God is saying, I want you in my life. And that's what Sukkah says, is I want you literally to come home to me. And that's what the Sukkah represents. The building of the Sukkah and the living in the Sukkah means come home to me. Come home with me. I want you with me close. So being in this place, being in this sukkah is like the place where we go with all of our fragility. That's where we go. It says like home is the place. If you have a healthy home, it says home is the place where they have to take you in. They have to let you in. There's no preconditions. It's like you're home. In fact, sometimes it's a challenge because sometimes we save our worst behavior for at home and we're all nice and light when we are out in company. And then when we come home, you take off your stockings, your hat, your whatever, and you kind of let loose, and God help the people who are in your family. So it says, but in your home, they take you. It says, in our home, in our sukkah, God takes us. It's like, I want you with all of your fragility. I want you with all of your issues. I want you with all of your challenges, your complications, the relationships that aren't working. Just tell me what they are. I'm here to listen to you, and I'm here to embrace you in the challenge. Because just like a good therapist, the therapist doesn't solve the problems. The therapist listens to the problems, and the person finds strength and they find direction from their own intelligence. It says, Hashem is listening to us, and when we come into the sukkah, we come home. And God has a panel of people there, of experts that join us in the sukkah. It's the only holiday where we have company, and they don't have to be quarantined. Or actually, they're kind of quarantined in the sukkah with us. And those are what are called the ushpizin, our guests. So we have Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Joseph, Moses, Aaron, and King David. And then Rabbi Fisher said that his daughter said, and do their wives come with them? And he said, they must, because the woman is the sukkah. She's the home. Everything about the sukkah is about the feminine presence, like I'm coming home. So that we're there with a whole group of people who are there to embrace us with all the challenges they had. So seriously think about, you could sit and talk about your problems with sibling rivalry with Abraham, who had Ishmael, Isaac, who had Esau. I'm sorry, Isaac, who had Ishmael, and Jacob, who had Esau. It's like, you want to talk about sibling rivalry? I can hear what you're saying. Or Joseph, who was sold by his brothers. Or King David, whose father-in-law tried to kill him. And, it's like, I think we can talk about, like, we're in family therapy together. It's like, what does it mean to be surrounded and embraced? Is to bring our brokenness, to bring our fragility, our challenges into the sukkah. And there's a place like how people feel a sense of help when they go to a support group. In the support group are people who are also experiencing the same challenges. It's like, because they understand, it's like, I know what you are talking about. So between all of our ancestors who are there gathered with us, they've experienced everything that we could possibly experience. Maybe a different time, but human relationships don't really change so much. It's either going to be with your parents, it's going to be with your siblings, it's going to be with your in-laws, it's going to be with your boss, it's going to be with your neighbors. That's the sum total of it. Or it's going to be with yourself and your own challenges that we have with ourselves. So that's it. So all of these ushpizin are in the sukkah with us, and they are coming to be there to support us just by their presence. It says we come to this place of fragility, and we feel actually a sense of embrace and protection. So it's the ultimate paradox that we don't go to a place that is physically safe in order to feel secure. We go to a place that is physically unsafe or not so safe in order to feel a sense of true security as we are embraced. And that is the lesson and the message of Sukkah. So Sukkah, the spelling of Sukkah, the letters that spell the word Sukkah are all letters about space, not outer space, about making a space. So the Sukkah is spelled with a samach, which looks like a circle, the chaf, which looks like a C, and a hey, which looks like this. So they all are letters that have internal space. They also define halachically what your sukkah looks like, what's a kosher sukkah that must have 2+ walls. Can't just be a right angle. It has to have 2 plus a little extra. It has to create dimensional space that you can go into, that you can feel that you are inside of something. And when you step in, and I have to say, there's not one sukkah I've ever been in where I didn't feel, people smile when they go into a sukkah. It's like, oh, it's so lovely in here. It's like, what's so lovely about it? It's a piece of canvas or some wood or some whatever and bamboo. It's like, what's so lovely about it? It says that the divine presence is in the sukkah. The Shekhinah, the feminine force, divine presence is in the sukkah. And it's because of that those guests go in there. You notice they don't really come into our house. So they don't come to our Seder. Elijah the prophet comes to our Seder, but the Ushpizin don't come to our house for Seder. They don't come for Shavuos. They come for Sukkot. They come there, it's like, oh, now this is when the family gathers. So the holiday of Sukkot is also called the Chag HaAsif, that it's also like, which is why we read Ecclesiastes, Kohelet, which means to bring together. It's a harvesting holiday, but it's not just a harvest of produce, it's a harvest of relationships, it's a harvest of the effort that we put into all the work that we've been doing together since we started with Rosh Chodesh Elul, which seems like a really, really long time ago. So we had Elul, we went to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and now we are in Sukkot. It's like, this is the harvest of all of that work. So you'd think, well, I already did all this work, so like, aren't I done yet? Like, can we be done with this? Can we be done now? And the answer is no, actually, now the work really starts. So many people have the custom after Yom Kippur, they start, some people even before they break their fast, they started doing something to build their sukkah. Because the first thing we want to show is, now that the new year has started, now that I have forgiveness for my wrongdoing, now I need to build, now I need to rebuild, and I need to do the work. So Sukkah represents doing the work of building relationships. And doing that relationship is my relationship with God, my relationship with other people, and my relationship with myself. So this is about how to nurture those relationships. What do I need to do to fix the places that are a little wobbly, a little cracked, where there's, like the sukkah roof is like where the rain is kind of coming in. It's not hermetically sealed. It's subject to a lot of changes. The wind can take it down, the rain can take it down. In Colorado, snow can take it down. In Israel, you can have like a Hamsin can take it down. So where are the places that need to be fixed in the relationships? How can I rebuild? Because it's not enough just to say sorry. Okay, so you said sorry, and so you've been forgiven. And then the next question is, now what? What comes next? Where is the rebuilding? And that's where we come with, like, these are the challenges that I have. This is a relationship, and including with ourselves. We can say, I have issues with my child, I have issues with my in-laws, I have issues with my daughter-in-law, with my son-in-law, I have issues with my grandchildren, I have issues with my kids, I have issues with my employer, I have issues with my teachers, I have issues with my kids' teachers. I have issues. It's like, have you ever met anybody who doesn't have any issues with anybody? If they say they don't have issues, they're lying. Okay, so they're just like trying to be polite, company talk, but that's not reality. So Sukkot is about when we say, like, no, come and bring all the stuff and come bring it into a safe place. It says home is supposed to be a safe place where there are safe people to embrace us and help us navigate the journey forward. That is a place of Simcha. So the rabbi, hold on a second, let's just skip my head here, my mind. One of my favorite second, his name is Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch. He connects the word simcha with the word, I'm going to say it wrong. It comes from the word for to grow. Simeach. Rachel or somebody can tell me the correct pronunciation of that. It's with a tzadi, and it means to, what's the word, Rose?
To grow.
Litzmoach. Okay, litzmoach is to grow. So he says that the sin and the tzadi are interchangeable. Thank you, Rose. And so the person says that what makes us happy, true simcha, comes when we are growing. And that if we are not growing and changing and nurturing and developing a relationship, we can't really be happy. That's the definition of happy. So someone can be commanded to be basimcha. I want you to be basimcha. It's like, but I'm not happy. It's like, well, why aren't you happy? So the definition, the Torah definition of being happy is that you're growing. It says a growing person is a happy person. And that that growth requires knowing where we're starting. So we need to know where the weak places are. The other way we can understand the sukkah is empty space. So empty space means that there's potential. There's nothing in there. It's empty space until we walk in. But we could also say that empty space is a place that is missing something. So that can also be described as our relationships that are missing something. Like there's a hole, there's something missing. What's missing? So what's missing in my relationship with myself? What's missing in my relationship with other people? And not just other people in general, specific people who are in my circle, in my family, my circle of friends, my community. This is not like, oh, this general humanity. General humanity is great, but that's not where we don't really work in the realm of general humanity. We work on the relationships that we actually have with real people who we can write down on a list. So where it's like, even if you just make I even just drew like an empty thing. It's like, where's the empty place in my relationship with this person? What does it need to be filled with? Does it need more kindness? Does it need more patience? Does it need more time? Does it need more effort? Does it need more connection? What does it need? And not what do they need to do, because that's the thing we always go to. It's like, well, if they would just do this, then the relationship would be better. It's like, that's not the question for Sukkot. The question for Sukkot is, what do I need to put into that empty space that would fill that relationship, that would make a deposit into that account? And that can be for other people. That can be with God, my relationship with Hashem. It's like, am I not feeling the love, the friendship? Like, what is it that I need to invest here? And also with ourselves. So this is the time to also think of like, what do I need to do for myself to make my relationship with myself better? And this is a time of compassion. Not like I have to lose 10 pounds and I need to get to the gym and I need to clean my house and I need to straighten the papers and I need to be superwoman. It's not that. It's like, what do I need to do to be nicer to myself, to invest in my relationship with me? And maybe it's like, I need to get more sleep, or I do need to take a walk. I need to exercise, not because I need to be the most fit person in the world, but just because I'll feel better. I'll be nicer to myself. I'll be in a better mood. I need to eat better. I need to take time to make food for myself that's healthy, nutritious. That I really shouldn't be just like standing at the kitchen counter or eating whatever happens to be the easiest thing to eat, which is something I'm only speaking from personal experience that happens. It's like, okay, what can I just grab? And to be nice to myself. So this is the kind of self-care, is because when we don't take care of ourselves, I mean, it seems kind of obvious, we can't take care of anybody else either. Then we're running on empty. So the sukkah represents the place to fill up. It's the place where you go when you're on empty. Where do you go when you're on empty? You go someplace that fills you up. So not only are we looking to fill our relationships with other people, fill our relationship with our creator, but to fill our relationship with ourselves if we're running on empty. And I have to say, a lot of women, maybe not so much during Corona because our lives are so crazy, but usually by this time in the Jewish calendar, most Jewish women are running on empty. They're like, how many more days of this holiday do we have? How many more Yontif meals can I make? And it seems like Yontif, Shabbos, Yontif, before fast, after fast, get ready for Sukkot, Shabbos, Sukkot, Simchas Torah, Shmini Atzeret. It's like, oh my gosh, I have nothing left to give. So it says we are on empty. So we need a place to fill. It says the Sukkah is the filling station. It's the only mitzvah other than mikvah that we enter into with our entire body. When you go into a sukkah, you're literally all in. Just like when you go into a mikvah, you're all in. It says, and it fills us that the sukkah is a mikvah of air, as just like the mikvah of water, except we can breathe in it. You can't breathe in the mikvah, you have to hold your breath, and you can only stay down a short amount of time. But in a sukkah, you can just stay there. And that is part of what makes people happy, is that they can feel themselves being filled. Now we do this by having guests. So being a guest, having a guest, isn't it great to be a guest with a good host? Someone who is like filling you. I don't know, again, as women, maybe in your home it's different, but a lot of women find themselves that they're the ones who are doing the nurturing for everybody, making the meals, serving, etc. I mean, one of my favorite things is to go someplace and have somebody else make me food. I think that's why I like to go out. It's like somebody else, and people say, oh, it wasn't so good. It wasn't this. I said, you know what? I didn't plan it. I didn't buy it. I didn't make it. And I don't have to clean it up. As far as I'm concerned, it's 5-star before I even taste one thing. I don't even care what it was. So it's like to be able to be filled up. Says the sukkah is the embrace. It's, I'm coming to fill you, honey. Sweetie, come into the house. I'm coming to fill you up. So it's one thing to be filled physically with food, which is amazing, but also to be filled emotionally and spiritually, to go to a place where I can, a filling station, and you're in this sukkah, this place that can fill us up. Deep breath, stay in there. And that's why the commandment is like, you're supposed to dwell in the sukkah. You're not supposed to make a little quick visit. Oh yeah, when the sukkah, hello, goodbye. It's like, you didn't stay long enough to fill up. If you're filling up your car that's on empty, you don't just stick the, the gas thing in for 1 second and then say, oh, I guess it's filled. It's like, no, you have to be at the filling station for a period of time so that you can enjoy it. And it's called Leishev Basukkah, to sit in the sukkah, to dwell with the kind that has to do with sitting. It says, what is sitting? Sitting by definition is take a breath. Don't be running. Just sit and take it in and just breathe deeply and just be there. You don't have to do anything in the sukkah. You just be in the sukkah. And you don't have to be anybody. You just be in the sukkah and feel the presence of these other people who are there being with you. It's like, that should make us pretty happy. It says that makes us ach sameach, nothing but happy. And that way I can feel reconnected and rejuvenated, and I can grow and go forward with the year after that. In addition, we know that Sukkot is a holiday that's a little funny in that it's a 7-day holiday, but it's really an 8-day holiday. So we have 7 days of Sukkot, and then we have Shemini Atzeret, which is its own holiday. We'll make a separate kiddush on that on the 8th day. And there is a Shehachianu on that. It's a new holiday, and it's its own thing. However, it is also the 8th day, because it is called 8. Yom HaShmini means the 8th day. So people are always like, is it part of Sukkot? It's not part of Sukkot. Well, it's kind of a bridge. But because it really is kind of this 8-day holiday, it is very much connected with Hanukkah, which is our other 8-day holiday. It's like Hanukkah, Sukkot, what's the connection? So again, this was so beautiful that Rabbi Fisher points out that when we look at Hanukkah, and especially the way it's observed in Israel, is that people light their menorahs outside. That the Hanukkah is the holiday that we take the inside of the house outside, and we expand our boundaries of what we call home by having our menorah outside. Same thing with the sukkah. The sukkah is meant to become our home. It says that you should live in it like it's your house. So many people sleep in the sukkah, they eat all their meals in the sukkah, they read in the sukkah, they take naps in the sukkah, they hang out in the sukkah. It's like their house. And of course, it is also outside. So it's like having an addition to your house. My house just went outside. So my menorah takes my home outside. Hanukkah takes my home outside. Sukkot takes my home outside. It expands the definition of home. It says, and this is what we ultimately want. It said, especially again, that the Jewish woman is called the house. We are the house. We are the Jewish home. This has nothing to do with our marital status. It has nothing to do with if we have any kids living with us. It has nothing to do with any of that. It has to do with our identity as Jewish women. We are called the house. Our homes are an extension of us. And then therefore the menorah, Hanukkah, and the Sukkah are also extensions of our influence into the world. Because it's great to create something in our insular little place, but it's even better if it overflows and goes outside for other people to benefit from as well. So the goal is that who I am should be so full that it overflows into the people in my life and it expands outward. So that is done with Hanukkah. My menorah goes, the light goes out. And with the Sukkah, the same thing, the divine presence goes outward. And I'm having an expansive presence in the world. So that this is the definition of the woman, that she is the one who is able to do this. Thoughts or ideas, questions about just some of these concepts of Sukkah, and then we're going to go back to another aspect of ourselves. Anybody has anything that they wanted to ask or say? I think I can see. Yes, Etta.
You hit the nail on the head. I am so wiped out. I am so empty. I am so like
Depleted.
Can we get to the next month already?
You'll have a very empty next month.
My
Yeah, the month of Cheshvan is called Mar Cheshvan, bitter Cheshvan. There's nothing in it. Says that then you get to see what's the month like when you have no holidays to kind of bolster your spiritual journey. What do you do when there's nothing? It's like when you come home from the spa after you've been to a place that is giving you, you know, where they have the meals are prepared and they have the spiritual and the intellectual and the educational conferences and speakers and everything else. And then you come home and all that is stripped away. This is like now who are you? And you get to see that. So yes, we are on empty and we get to go through Sukkot and to be in the Sukkah and to be, are you in your Sukkah right now, Etta?
Yes.
Okay, it's beautiful. I would have loved to do mine in the Sukkah, but I don't have oh, lovely. Okay, so there you are, hopefully being filled up with the divine presence coming into you and feeling all the support of all your matriarchs who feel you. They feel your strength. Just to talk about again about the women is, as Rabbi Fisher also pointed out, that in Hallel, which we recite, those are the additional verses of Psalms that we recite all the days of Sukkot, just like we do at Hanukkah, which is interesting. On Pesach, big holiday, but we don't recite all of Hallel for every day of Pesach. We have what's called half Hallel for the intermediate days, and we only have full Hallel at the beginning, at the end. But for Hanukkah, where some people say, oh, it's just a minor holiday, it's not minor. Hanukkah, Hallel, full Hallel every single day. Sukkot, full Hallel every single day. So one of the phrases in there is a reference, most of the Psalms are from King David, but in one of them, he identifies himself and he says, and men and women sing this, they both say the same thing. And it says, Ani avdecha, I am your servant, God, ben amatecha, son of your maidservant, from the word ima, from your aim, from a mother. So that's very interesting that King David identifies himself as the son of his mother. Of course, he's the son of his mother, but usually, like, why doesn't he say he's the son of his father? His father, Yishai, Jesse, is, according to our tradition, one of very few people who died without ever having committed a sin. There's just a handful of people. Yishai was one of them. So if you want to say, how did King David get to be as great as he is? You say, well, I'm David, son of my father, Yishai. But that's not how he identifies himself. He identifies himself as Ani avdecha ben amatecha. I am your servant, the son of your maidservant, meaning my mother. And that is, he traces his strength to his mother, who was the one who nurtured him and nurtured his path. And his father was a great man, but that's not how King David did not become great because of his father. He became great because of his mother. It says, and this kind of influence on him, which was to be able to withstand difficult challenges and trying situations, that he says he got that from his mother. He says, we think, we're not sure what it is we're supposed to hand on to the next generation or anybody else. It could be the fact that we have withstood the challenge and are here to talk about it. Maybe our biggest gift to someone else is like, well, if she could do it, I can do it. And that may be something, the biggest legacy that we have to pass on to someone, which doesn't get you, nominated for a Nobel Prize, but it may make the difference between life and death and somebody else in our families. Like, if she could do it, I could do it. Etta.
Just a question. What was his mother's name?
Nitsevet.
King David. What?
Nitsevet. Nitsevet.
Nitsevet.
Nitsevet is what our tradition says, that his mother was named that. And there's a whole long backstory about his birth and about his growing up. And she was somebody who was able to withstand and taught him to withstand incredible pressure, hostility, negativity, and everything else, which he needed to be a master of in his life. And again, fighting the Philistines was nothing compared to having to live with a father-in-law who was trying to kill him, with a son who was trying to usurp him, and with friends who turned out to be foes. So it was like all from the inner circle. Those are always the biggest challenges. The world is one thing. Okay, that's a challenge. It's nothing compared to the inner challenges. I don't know anybody who goes to see a therapist who says, well, my problem that I really am having difficulty dealing with is, I don't know what, Iran. People don't say that. It's like, yes, Iran is like the enemy of the Jewish people and of the world, but that's not my immediate problem. My problem are the people in my life. That's my problem. So this is where we need the strength. This is where we need that fortitude. And when we go back to our Ushpizin, Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, Rebecca, Jacob, Rachel and Leah, David and his wives, and Joseph, all of these people, Aaron, Moses, these people, they have what to teach us for how to live our lives. And so Sukkot brings them all very much down to earth. It's not like they're not present all the time anyway. We access them all the time. When we daven, we start out every Shemona Esrei, every Amida starts out, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov. I'm connecting myself to the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. We say that all the time. But on Sukkot, it's like they come down front and center in our lives. And it makes it's a totally a different situation. Yay! I just have to interrupt this. My daughter-in-law just gave birth to a baby boy. Yay!
Mazel tov. This is your
Shalom
son's
Zach.
daughter? Your
This is my
son's
son's
wife.
son, my son's wife. She went into the hospital today, and now we have a baby. So we have a
Mazel
Shalom
tov.
Zachar going.
Mazel tov. How
Okay.
wonderful.
Okay.
All right.
Well, the boys, a boy, baby boy, the boys will be really excited because now they have 2 boys and 3 girls, and the boys were really hoping for a boy. So now we're having a Shalom Zachar, which is a special celebration on the first Shabbos after the baby's birth, even if it's like the next minute. Tomorrow night. So we'll be a Shalom Zachar at my daughter-in-law's parents' house. So we're going to be there for Shabbos dinner. So we'll go. Oh my gosh.
Oh, Mazel tov.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you. Hot off the press.
So is this baby number 6?
Baby number 6, Baruch Hashem. Yes. So, and I have to tell you, she went into the hospital this afternoon, and as she's literally pulling up into she's incredible. As she's pulling up into the parking lot at Shaarei Tzedek Hospital, she's giving me the phone number for the Ministry of Health, like who to call to get out of our quarantine, and saying, be sure you tell them this, or whatever. So I'm like, how are you even thinking about this while you're having contractions and going to the hospital to have a baby? Like,
Because she's had 6 other ones.
She's had
She's-
5 others.
5 others is number 6. Yep. So she's incredible.
So it's 3 and 3?
3 and 3. So
Even, Stephen.
even, yes. Our mathematical grandson will be very happy that it's even.
They should all be well
Amen. Thank you.
and safe.
Thank you. Thank you.
And well and
So,
all good
yeah.
things.
Thank you.
Oh, when
So
we went
that
up,
mother.
excuse me, when we went up to Wyoming to see the moon, the sun being whatever,
Yes.
and on the way back, Yossi Fried got a phone call from Shlomo that Racheli just had a baby girl. That in a minute, I mean, it was just wonderful. So these things happen unexpectedly.
We are very happy. She was due it down now, so this was B'sha'at
worked.
Tova. This was the
It
good
worked.
time. It worked. So yes, so these mothers are amazing, what they bring into the world. So the last piece I wanted to talk about, and then we'll conclude and I'll get to go call my son and wish him a mazel tov, is that the sukkah can often be an uncomfortable place. I mean, we were very happy to have nice weather and perfectly lovely, but that's not the definition of a sukkah. A sukkah can often be really pretty uncomfortable. And there's halachas about like how long you need to sit there in the sukkah, how uncomfortable do you need to be? And there's different opinions, like until the rain is spoiling your soup or until whatever, you know, there's different criteria. I'm not here to answer those questions. I don't really know that so much, but a sukkah is not necessarily meant to be a comfortable place. And yet we go back to this to be nothing but happy, to not be nothing but ach sameach, to be nothing but happy. And this is the ability to be comfortable with discomfort. Our Western society is, God forbid, you should have an ache or a pain or a smell or an anything, a moment of discomfort that you must take something to alleviate it. And Sukkah is to tell us we need to learn how to be comfortable with discomfort. So now, like for those of us who are trying to get to Israel for our women's trip, we're living with a tremendous amount of discomfort. Now, discomfort doesn't just have to be physical discomfort, like I'm cold, I'm hot, I'm, you know, it's bumpy, or it's whatever. It can be emotional discomfort. It can be discomfort with a relationship, like this relationship makes me so frustrated. And it's always the same thing. So the metaphor that's given that I think is really kind of funny, it says that we need to accept that a dog is a dog and a cat is a cat. And that when we hear a cat meow, we can't say, why isn't it barking? It's like, because it's a cat. And like, what are you expecting? So we get ourselves like all twisted up because we want things to be what we want them to be rather than what they are. It says, and if this person in your life is always this person who always says these things and is always doing this thing, so why are you expecting them to bark? They're a cat. So it says this discomfort can be discomfort with a relationship. Again, it doesn't mean you don't try to fix it. But the first step is accept the reality. This is what it is. And I can live with the discomfort. I don't need to be perfectly comfortable at every moment. I just don't. And a sukkah is training, 7 days of training for being uncomfortable and being comfortable with that discomfort. It can be the discomfort of uncertainty. I'm in my sukkah and I don't know if it's going to blow down. I don't know what's going to happen. Again, like this, I don't know. Is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? I don't know. That makes me so anxious. Well, part of it is because I have an expectation that I shouldn't have to feel anxious. I shouldn't have to have uncertainty. I shouldn't have to have things up in the air. I should get to have things the way I want them to be. It says like that isn't reality. So it says that Sukkot is about coming to terms with reality. And that is what makes us happy because we let go of the things that are unrealistic. We say that is unrealistic. I'm letting go of that. And when I do that, I can actually sit there and I can be okay. Not just okay, I can actually be happy. It's like, you know, that is the way the world is, and I can accept that. And I try to better it at the same time, but it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be according to my terms every moment. Though all of us, I'm sure, have scripts that we have prepared for many people in our lives, that if they would just do or say what we suggest for them, that their lives would be better and our lives would be better. We saw in one summer mugs that said, I'm not bossy, I just know what you should be doing. It's like, I know what you should be doing. And like, I don't know why you don't ask me. So this is not our role, that our role is sometimes just, you know, unless someone asks, our role is to be more of a journey, a fellow journeyer, fellow traveler in this temporary, very, very temporary life. And ultimately, the Sukkah teaches us about the temporary nature of our entire physical existence. And the only life that is really, really real and certain is the spiritual life, and that's eternal. So that when we fixate and focus only on how things are in the physical world, for sure we're going to miss the boat, because those things for sure are not going to weather forever. They just don't last. Our home is a contemporary design home, but I keep forgetting that it was built in 1960. Now, 1960 was not yesterday. And so I'm always surprised when things wear out. I'm like, but it's a new house. It's like, no, it's not a new house. It is 60 years old. It's like, that's not possible. How's that possible? Okay, so that's really strange that that's true. So we think like, oh, everything should last forever. It's like, it doesn't. Everything kind of wears out. The only thing that's eternal is that which have a spiritual nature. Those ushpizim, they're eternal. Their lives are eternal. The things they did are eternal. The connections, the spiritual connections we make, that is what's eternal. And that should give us the most simcha of all. It's like to realize not that we don't live in the physical world, but our connection to it is supposed to be very tentative. It's tentative. So the commandment is not to go outside and sleep in the complete open. It is, no, you must build a sukkah. You build something physical, but just don't get so attached to it and think that it's something that it's not. It's temporary, it's fragile, it's going to fall apart, and you're going to be okay, because that's not the real world anyway. The ultimate real world is the spiritual world, and that's where we're mostly invested. All right, ladies, I must go talk to my son and daughter-in-law and wish them mazel tov. Thank you so much for joining me. Wishing you a Chag Sameach. You should be only besimcha. I'll be signing out for the next few weeks. Plan to be now off and back in town either, I don't know when. I packed for who knows what, but I'll be in touch with you. You'll have an email, so you'll know what's going on. All right, ladies, have a wonderful Shabbos. It was great to see you. Thank you so much for joining me.
Mazel tov, Ellyn.
Thank you.
Wonderful news.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
She just, her granddaughter.
I have a quick question for you. I wanted to pay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, okay. I wanted to pay for the sessions, and I sent you an email, but you didn't get it. I sent you a text.
Oh,
Just
I didn't get it. I'm sorry.
Okay,
You can
I
make
figured
it.
it's okay.
You can make it out to me, or you can do it by Venmo, if you want,
Okay.
or you can do it by Zelle. Do either of those,
Zelle,
whatever
so
works.
Zelle to your phone number?
Zelle to my email address, to ellenhutt@gmail.com.
Okay, fine. I will try.
Okay,
Okay,
that's
and
great.
I'll pay like for the year, like I'll pay something for the year. Okay.
That's so
'Cause
nice. That's
I'm
lovely.
on periodically. That was my mother, by the way. Rose was my mother.
Rose is your mother. I'm so glad she joined us. That was great.
Yeah,
And
I
I
sent you a
appreciated her.
snap and I sent you the email, so.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Ellyn
you.
A. Hutt. Okay.
Ellen,
I will
right,
try.
ELLYNA Hutt. Right.
That I know,
Okay.
ahut@gmail.com. Thank you so much.
Okay,
Mazel
thank you,
tov.
Reva. It's great to see you. Thank you so
Mazel
much.
tov. You're welcome.
Bye-bye.